Welcome once again to my weekly broadcast on the Marriage Workshop, where our goal is building intimate marriage relationships. Building intimate marriage relationship. And I determined after I launched my book, Don't Get Married Until You're Single, to bring you weekly broadcast, which is what I title Talk on Singleness. And I'm basically pulling out wisdom, information, and knowledge that will help you to live a single life from this book. So this week I would, like I did last week, take 2 questions. I'm really encouraged that people are sending questions. I'm going to take 2 questions, and I will also talk a little bit from concepts in this book. Now, last time I was speaking about the generators of loneliness. I have said consistently that loneliness is not taken away by marriage. Marriage does not remove loneliness. In fact, a number of married people I have come across in my line of work as a counselor are lonely. And this is because these generators of loneliness, when not dealt with before marriage, and people hide under this notion that marriage was going to, resolve all of their issues, but they find that it doesn't. Instead, it opens it up and allows your partner to see you for who you really are. And that's why the people then want divorce. Now, if you remember, I was saying to you that it's okay for in a business transaction for you to look for a partner who would bring a percentage, maybe not as much as yours. So for example, you might bring 70% and your partner brings 30%, or there are more people involved, you bring 40%, one person brings 40%, another person brings 10%, another person brings 5%, all that kind of ratio comes into play. But when it comes to marriage, I was saying, you have got to be 100%. And you look for a person who is 100%. Now, I say this very strongly because if we are made in the image of God, if we are made in the image of God, if we believe that, then there is no deficiency in us, because there's no deficiency in the image of God. It's just as simple as that. I don't buy into this concept of my better half. I don't subscribe to it at all. I think that one of the greatest problems befalling marriages that ends in divorce, or where couples feel unfulfilled, is because they went in with this discolored notion that they aren't complete, and they needed somebody to make them complete, only to find out that that person himself or herself is still struggling to understand who they really are. And that just throws in a lot of complication into the mix. But when we cultivate our virtues through the life of singleness, we come to a place where we are ready. We are ready to share our lives with the person we marry. Ready to share the good that comes from us. Ready to share the great virtues we have learned to cultivate in the life of singleness. We become an asset, not a liability to the person. Now, this is a very, 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 very key, important aspect that you need to grasp if you are looking to get married one day, or if you are married already but you are unhappy, you're unfulfilled. Now, very quickly, I'm going to read key truth number 8 from the book. Remember, with every broadcast, I read from the key truth in the book. Number 8 says that marriage is not the cure for singleness, but singleness is the only cure for divorce. Marriage is not the cure for singleness. What I mean by that is that I see a lot of people that say, once I get married, once I find a husband, once I find a wife, I will feel complete. I will feel wholesome. That person will help me to become this. That person will help me to become that. I would no longer struggle with this issue. I would have company. But let me tell you the reality. The reality is that you can be in a crowd of people. You can be in a crowd rather, and still feel lonely. You can be in the midst of people and still feel like you're the only one on the face of the planet. Why? Because there is something happening on the inside, or something not happening on the inside, that is affecting how you see the world around you. And that's why I keep saying that singleness is an inside job. Singleness is an inside job. It's an inside job. Singleness is not an outside job. Singleness is an inside job. You look for the man inside. You look for the woman inside. Because these are the things that make a man, a male, a real man, and a female, a real woman. A complete person. Cultivating those virtues that are on the inside. So it was necessary for me to just quickly do a recap. Now let me delve in a little bit from the book, and then I'll take the questions, and then we'll just take it from there. Last week I talked about the 3 generators of loneliness. Number 1, I said, is the sense of being unworthy. The sense of being unworthy. Number 2 is a sense of self-pity. The sense of self-pity. And number 3 is the sense of deficiency. Now, a sense of being unworthy. Have you ever met an individual who, no matter how much pep talk and motivation you give to them, always seems to remain down in the valley of gloominess? It can be quite a task. There are some people, no matter what you tell them, no matter how positive you try to convey a message to them, they always go back to this valley of gloominess. Their concept of the world is gloomy. Their worldview about things, about themselves, about everything happening around them is so negative, is so gloomy. It's a task to get this person from where they are to where they ought to be. Now, imagine going into a relationship with a man or a woman like this. You would most likely spend the rest of your time trying to lift them up. Unless, of course, they encounter a book like this that helps them to overcome some of these things and brings them out to a place where they are now single, as it were, wholesome, complete in who they ought to be. It can really be a task. It can be a task, because no matter what you say to the person, they're always passing through this funnel that is that is gloomy and that is discolored. And you see, the most, and I don't know what word to use now. Now the most is not annoying, but the most difficult thing, that's the word now. The most difficult thing about this sense is that these people that carry it believe it. They hold on to it so firmly. They hold on to it so strongly. This sense of being unworthy. They just hold tightly to it as if it's the very life and essence of who they are. That's why it's a task to get them out of it. Something somewhere seems to have somehow gone wrong in their developmental phases in life. And because it had gone unchecked, unresolved, unnoticed before adulthood, it has therefore saturated the individual's mental container and formed a block therein. Just like water saturates a container when poured into it, and it freezes into ice block when put in a freezer. To unblock the ice so that it is fluid again like water requires heat or the process of defrosting. Now you can bear me witness, if you freeze water in the freezer, it just congeals, it blocks. If you're going to make it become fluid again, you need to heat it up or put it in a place where heat can impact on it so that it becomes that fluid, that open mind. That's how the mind of somebody who believes they are deficient is. Somebody who carries a sense of deficiency. The mind is blocked. But the process of singleness, the life of singleness, coming to a place where you cultivate the virtues on your inside, is that process of challenging the notions, of challenging the beliefs, of challenging the discolored view of yourself. Singleness helps you to challenge it. You begin to ask the question, where did this come from? How come I hold so firmly to this belief that I am deficient? I'm not deficient. I am made in the image and the likeness of God. And if God is a complete God, then it means that I am complete. Why? Because I am made in his image and his likeness. So the process of defrosting that mindset, the process of dealing with that mindset of the sense of deficiency is singleness. It takes the process of singleness to unearth it, to bring it to the fore and expose it so that you can begin to work on it. Because if you go into a relationship or a marriage with this, it's going to destroy it. Because your partner would all forever feel tasked and burdened by your sense of deficiency. People with a sense of being unworthy think they don't deserve anything good. So they tend to become increasingly suspicious when a potential life mate is being kind or nice to them. People with a sense of being unworthy tend to lack confidence, prefer to be at the bottom of the pile, and so would rather remain in the shade. People with a sense of being unworthy think that it is stupid to be vulnerable, so they will wittingly evade anyone who attempts to get any closer to them. For such individuals, involvement in a relationship is seen somewhat as a threat to their person. And it is only natural that anyone will fight or resist whatever they perceive as a threat. Hence, they find it hard to sustain any meaningful relationship and may remain lonely until they can overcome this disposition through the quality of singleness. I mean, it's so true. It's so true. Because they carry this sense of deficiency, and you come around, you want to show love, they feel threatened by it. They are suspicious of your love. They think you must want something from me. That's why you're trying to show me love. So they recline back to themselves. They go back into the shade where they feel comfortable. And they don't want to come out of that shell. It becomes so difficult to get through to this person. And such people remain lonely until they are willing to challenge that notion. Sometimes, when I say such people remain lonely, I'm not saying they remain unmarried. Get me right. They may get married, but in the marriage, they remain lonely. They remain lonely because every attempt of their partner to show them affection is bounces back by this suspicion they have, of anyone that tries to be kind to them. That's why singleness is so vital. Now, next week, on the next broadcast, I'm going to go into the next generator of loneliness. But the sense of being unworthy is something that if it is manifesting in anyone's life before they get married, they need to tackle it. Even whilst in marriage, if it's manifesting, you need to deal with it so that it doesn't keep you perpetually in the valley of gloominess and loneliness. Okay, now I want to look at two questions. I've got a question here from a lady called Samantha. Samantha says, what do I do if I find out that I've married the wrong man? Now, that is a very serious question. I know I laughed there, but that's a very serious question. What do I do if I find out I married the wrong man? I don't think you married the wrong man. Yeah, I don't think you married the wrong man. I think, like they say, when people are dating or courting or before marriage, they say love is blind. So you are blind to a lot of things about the person, and this is why this book goes into detail about how to discover the person you're dating, how to find, how to search them out and find out if the person you're interacting with, if that person is a real person or just a personality, just a face, just something that they're presenting to you to make you feel like they are the right person. So I don't think you married the wrong person. It's probably the case that you are now beginning to see things that weren't obvious to you before you get married and before you got married. Now, I have written an article that, in fact, it addresses this issue. I titled it, "Did I Marry the Wrong Person?" Is one of my most popular article on my blog. My blog is tmonline.blogspot.co.uk. tmonline.blogspot.co.uk. If you go check it out, there's an article there that says, "Did I marry the wrong person?" Now, the key point I need you to understand is that succeeding in marriage, I said that in the article, succeeding in marriage is not about finding the right person, as it were. It's about learning to love the person that you found. It's about learning to love the person that you found. Now, the beauty of singleness is that singleness places the emphasis on you, yourself. Because I realize that if I fix myself first, and I leave the other person to fixing themselves, I have already begun the journey of fixing the issue in my marriage. Because what most people do is that they look at the other person, they think it's my husband. The reason why I'm not happy in my marriage is because my husband. It's because my wife. It's because my wife does this. My wife said that. My husband said this. My husband said that. While some of those statements might be true for you, but the focus of singleness is you. It's focusing on you. It's putting the spotlight on. So the focus of singleness is you. If you begin to check yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why all of a sudden do I not feel love for the man I once professed? I once professed to love. You know, why all of a sudden don't I feel like I want to be with this guy that I believed at some point in my life that this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with? Now, again, this may not be a popular view, but on the marriage workshop, we don't subscribe to divorce. We don't believe that divorce is the answer to happiness in marriage or in life. We don't believe in that. We don't subscribe to that. So if you're starting to feel that you married the wrong person, now don't forget, feelings are temporal. Feelings are just chemical reactions in your system. The way you feel about something now may not be the same way you feel about it tomorrow or next week or next year or in 2 years' time. So feelings are temporal. So when you focus on yourself first, you start to change yourself. It is only when you have overcome yourself as a person that you have the power or the right to overcome someone else. And when I say you overcome someone else, it's not you force your way through, but when the person sees your changed person, your changed behavior, your changed attitude, it becomes a pull and attraction for them. And I think this is where the answer lies. It's not about finding the right person. It's about learning to love the person you found. Because believe me, if there was ever an atom of love between the two of you, that love still exists. The only issue right now is that you can't see it. Your eyes are just blinded by the faults that you're picking up here and there, by the issues that you're seeing here and there. And now you're thinking, you're feeling, I don't love them anymore. But that's not the solution. Because I tell you, unless you deal with yourself, even if you divorce your husband or your wife, or whoever that person is, and you go to another person, those issues might still come out. So it is better for you to deal with it, deal with yourself, find a place, find your singleness in that marriage, and you see what effect it will have on your spouse. Now, I'll take one more question. This question from Charles. Charles says, my fiance is in the habit of avoiding discussions, especially about difficult subjects that concern her. But when I do anything wrong, she lashes out at me immediately. You must be getting it really bad, Charles. I'm not sure how to handle this anymore. Well, soft answers turns away wrath. You must speak to one another in love and not in a condemnatory tone, not in a condescending tone. You must be patient with one another. Sometimes people are just not in the headspace emotionally to talk about issues. And if you bring the issues up at the time, it will flare up and bring us many ugliness that ought not to be there. So you need to be emotionally intelligent to find the right time, the right place to discuss these issues. Now, having said that, if you find that this person is perpetually of this kind of behavior. So for example, you've looked for a good time to have a discussion, and the person still flares up, doesn't want to know, doesn't want to give audience, because it seems as though you're pointing the spotlight at them. You know, even though you've presented it in the nicest possible way. If you find that this is perpetually going on, watch it. It will keep occurring in marriage. So you need now to come to a place of decision and ask yourself, do I really want this in my marriage? You need to ask yourself that question. And if you find that it's a perpetual issue, then maybe it's time for you to call quit. Because it is better to have a failed relationship than to end the marriage in divorce. Divorce can be very painful. Divorce can be very bitter. In fact, Miles Monroe said divorce is worse than death. Because everywhere you go, the person you divorce keeps surfacing, keeps showing up. And every time they show up, the resentment you have for them comes out and comes to the fore. So it is better for you to have a broken relationship, break it now if you think it's not going anywhere, and find the person who is more compatible with you. Because if you think, oh, it's nothing, you make excuses for it, it's going to stare you in the face when you get into marriage. So there are two ways to this. Be emotionally intelligent. Look for the right times to have discussions, and speak in a kind manner, in a way that shows love and consideration for the other person. Now, if you've tried all of those things and this fiancé of yours is still not giving audience, is still not willing to listen, then you seriously need to think about whether you want to carry on with that marriage, with that relationship through to marriage. I always say that many people don't think about the consequences of their decision. In fact, the way I put it is, consequences is greater than decision. Consequences are greater than decision. Many people, if only they had thought about the consequences of their decisions, they would not be where they are right now. They would not be going through the pain, the sorrow, the agony that they are going through as a result of the divorce that happened in their marriage. So it's better for you to think about the consequences. Do I really want to end up with this? Do I really want to be dealing with this for the rest of my life? If the person is not willing to play ball, that is better for you to do than to compromise and think that, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine, because those things will keep surfacing. Well, thank you very much for watching this week's broadcast. Please send your questions. I'll put our email address at the bottom, answers.themarriageworkshop@gmail.com. answers.themarriageworkshop@gmail.com. You can send me questions on our Facebook page, The Marriage Workshop, Facebook/The Marriage Workshop. You can send us messages, questions via our YouTube channel. Send us your questions, and I'll be very, very happy to deal with them in the next broadcast. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this has made a lot of sense to you. If you haven't got the book already, this book has made it to number one Amazon bestseller, number one in the United States of America for its Kindle edition. So this book is going places. Make sure you go get your copy on Amazon. You can also get a copy from my publisher's website, www.troubadour.co.uk, or send us a message on Facebook. If you live in the United Kingdom, we will post you a copy, and you read it and get blessed and get transformed by the concept contained in the book. Thank you very much for watching. Sam Opeche here on The Marriage Workshop.